Hello everyone and welcome to our first lesson of the fundamentals of Kabbalah. Actually, I lied, it's our third lesson. However, the two previous lessons were an introductory to this course. Officially, this is the first lesson. However, if you watch the first two, it's your third lesson, so no dramas. My name is Mutlu for the first time if you're here. It sounds a bit tricky, but you'll get used to it, I'm sure. And I'm together here with Chris this evening. How are you, Chris?
I'm awesome, Mutlu. I'm very excited. And like Mutlu said, it is our first course officially, although we have had 2 lessons already. So if this is your first time to join us, please let us know that this is your first time so we can kind of get an idea of how many new faces. We don't see your faces yet, but we will in later semesters, how many new faces we have.
Okay, great. So welcome to the course for the newcomers, and welcome again for those who've been watching the previous 2 as well. Now today, because this is our officially first lesson, we will start with the first official lesson. So some things may be familiar for the friends who've been with us previously in the first 2 lessons, but it's not a problem. It'll be actually a good opportunity for us to kind of go over what we've learned. Our course is the fundamentals of the wisdom of Kabbalah, and as Bennet Burrow, what we're going to do is kind of give you these lectures regarding how we study Kabbalah and how our basis and our foundations have come to be. So first of all, let's talk about a little bit about Bennet Burrow, shall we? And by the way, if you do have any questions at all, please feel free to pass them on through the panel there. We'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. In the previous 2 lessons, we had friends pretty much from all around the world. We'll be here and we'll be happy to hear from everyone. So any question that you might have about the wisdom of Kabbalah and about how to study as we study, please shoot them through so that we don't have any doubts or questions at all once we go through the lesson. There is no question that this wisdom can't answer, so I'm happy for any question to come through. Okay. First of all, let's talk a little bit about Bennet Burrow. Now, Bennet Burrow is an organization that was first established in 1995. And in 1995, it was established by Dr. Michael Lightman, who's still our teacher. And we take lessons from him every day. So me and Chris are the students of Dr. Michael Lightman, and we've been so for many years. And accordingly, we've been given kind of the permission by Dr. Lightman, our teacher, to kind of pass the wisdom on as teachers as well. So we give these lessons and lectures as part of a team of lecturers, actually, from around the world who try to help people and teach people that want to really learn what the wisdom of Kabbalah is all about. And also, what we're going to do today is take a look at our teachers and where our foundation comes from. Now, Kabbalah is a very, very old wisdom. And if you probably did a bit of research before you came to the course, you might have found some very weird things on Kabbalah on the internet if you researched it. So hopefully this lesson will kind of clear out all that and kind of give ourselves a clean kind of a slate, a clear path as to the direction we're taking. Now, Kabbalah comes from a character called Adam from nearly 6,000 years ago. And Adam was the first Kabbalist, in fact. And you will note that during the times of Adam, there was actually no Judaism, there was no religion, there was no Islam, no Christianity at all. Nearly 6,000 years ago, I don't think there were any religions around at that time at all. But Adam was the first Kabbalist who asked the question about the meaning of life. And he was just a regular guy, just like all of us. And he was wondering about the meaning of life. And as he wondered, he discovered the laws of nature, and through that discovery of the laws of nature, he began to discover what was really acting behind reality. And he called that force the Creator. And that's where the word the Creator comes from, actually, okay, from Adam. So as he discovered this force, that there was a governing force, governing reality, and that there was a created reality which was actually purposeful, and it had a purpose for creation. As he discovered it, he wrote about it. And he also taught his family as well. So Adam's descendants, his family, also began to study this wisdom, and they also became Kabbalists. And throughout the years, from Adam onwards, there have been a chain of long Kabbalists, and pretty much actually thousands of them throughout the generations, who have studied this wisdom from teacher to student and have kind of developed it and have prepared it for every generation and have been teaching them to people, teaching this wisdom to people who want to learn. And so is our situation here. So we're kind of the links of that chain coming all the way from Adam. And we're going to look into the history of Kabbalah in detail, but I just wanted to point out the few basics as where it comes from, so that we don't confuse ourselves with many of the things that you might have read on the internet. Second of all, I'd like to touch on a few things that we're going to study, and the way we're going to kind of direct ourselves within the study. Now, throughout the centuries, as Kabbalah has been developed, it was kind of adapted to every generation, because humanity and the whole of reality actually is in an ongoing process of continuous development. So we're constantly changing, and we're constantly evolving, constantly developing. So the Kabbalists, what they wanted to do all the time was to make sure that the wisdom kind of matched the qualities of the generation. Because since creation has a purpose, they discovered that humanity had to change throughout generations, and it's continuously changing, and we're also changing. As you probably know as well, our parents are much different than us, and their parents are even more different than us. And so every generation has this misunderstanding between each other, simply because we're constantly evolving and changing. And Kabbalists who've discovered that kind of adapted the wisdom throughout the generations and have taught us these same principles of the laws of nature that kind of created this creation and governed this creation throughout these laws called the laws of nature, in order to bring humanity to some kind of a purposeful end. And this whole process we're going to study. Now, the sources we study are dating back about 2,000 years. So Zohar is a source that we study. The book of Zohar, it was written by Rashbi, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and his fellow Kabbalists, or students as they call them, a group of 10 Kabbalists wrote the whole of the Zohar. Also, we studied the Tree of Life by Ari, and we studied those through the composition of Baal HaSulam, who was the greatest Kabbalist of the 20th century. He kind of took the book of Zohar and the Tree of Life and kind of arranged it in such a way, he organized all the material in such a way so that we could study in a systematic way, just like people study in university or in school. So Baal HaSulam also, what he did was to kind of arrange the wisdom for the new generation of the 20th and the 21st century. And also on top of that, we have Rabash, Shalom Halevi Ashlag, which is Baal HaSulam's, he was Baal HaSulam's son. He passed away in the 80s. And what happened is he wrote a string of articles that actually took the methodology one step further, and he put it in a 3 volumes called The Writings of Rabash, and he actually explained how within a society people could study Kabbalah, what that interconnectedness, what that connection, and how that connection should be really built. And basically what they've done is brought to us a method and the books to go with that method in order to teach us the purpose of creation. And basically, Kabbalah is teaching us that. It's teaching us about the purpose of creation, how the whole of creation was created from A to Z, and what we, as created beings who live in this reality, as part of this reality, need to do in order to achieve that purpose in life. Okay? And that is the whole method of Kabbalah. So Kabbalah is teaching us how to understand our place in reality and how to connect with that one governing force called called the Creator or the upper force or the light. It has many names in reality, so that we can actually come to a higher level of consciousness and begin to feel and understand everything that happens to us inside this reality. And this wisdom therefore opens up to us the whole of reality and the acting forces, the understanding of the forces that act behind reality, which we're not really aware of. Because during our day-to-day life, all of a sudden something happens to us and we don't know why things are happening, why things are happening in the world. And if we take a look at the world, it's a big mess. And we really don't understand why it's a big mess, because throughout history, well, one would have thought that with all the dramas and the problems that we went through, one would have thought that we'd learned a few lessons, but we see that we haven't learned anything, and we seem to be taking the world from bad to worse with every generation. And the Kabbalists actually explain why it needs to be that way and how then we need to flip it towards good. So Kabbalah is a wisdom for a person who would like to discover the whole of reality and the force acting behind that reality. And a person who studies Kabbalah has a very special point. That point is called a point in the heart. And on top of that, if a person, well, what is a point in the heart? Then let's take a look at that first. If you haven't watched the first two lessons, a point in the heart is a question that a person reveals inside himself, and within that question, he's asking himself the meaning of life, why he's created, what the purpose of life is, and what really he's living for. So if you have that question, not as a curiosity, but something like that's really bugging you, and you don't feel like you have a lot of pleasure from life, doesn't like really give you any meaning, or it's a bit like blank for you, or just seems like passing by and you don't feel like there's any meaning to it, and you're wondering why, this wisdom is for you, okay? Because we've all been there and we're pretty much all coming from that same background, okay? So all of us pretty much studying Kabbalah have asked that question, what's the meaning of life? Why are we living? What's going to happen to us after we die? Or what were we before we were born? And what's going to happen to this piece of meat, this flesh that's staying there in this, it's born from his mother's womb, 2-3 kilograms, comes to this world, and all of a sudden is growing as a sack of protein and meat, and after 60-70 years, if he's lucky that is, he passes away. Okay, and seemingly we have no idea as to why things are happening. Also in our lives as well, life seems to go by pretty quick. All of a sudden you wake up and wow, life's gone by. It seems like just yesterday when we were in high school or in college, and now we're in our, 30s, 40s with, like, how did that all go by all of a sudden? So we get these wake-up calls in life, and these wake-up calls kind of bring us to wonder why we're living, and according to that, sometimes a person really feels like he needs to discover the meaning behind life. So that kind of a person comes to Kabbalah. In short, this is what we're going to study. Now, if you did some research on the internet or through books, articles, whatever, you might have found some things about Kabbalah from, from yoga positions using the Hebrew alphabet to, black magic or red strings, holy water, I don't know what not. Okay? So let's get all that straightened out, okay, before we go any further. Kabbalah has nothing to do with things that are related to this world in our corporeal existence. It is only a science, a methodological study in order for a person to understand the cause of everything that is happening to him in this reality. So what we're actually studying is a sphere or a dimension that is at the moment for us is like cut off from this world. We don't have a sensation of that reality. And what Kabbalists really want to teach us is what they actually want us to discover, this new dimension, this new approach, or this new perception, where we can understand why things happen and how the whole of reality runs and works. And until a person discovers that, he just suffers in life, unfortunately, and goes through many life cycles, until in one of his life cycles he will want to say, enough is enough, I need to know why things are happening to me. So in our group as Bennet Burrow, we're strictly studying Kabbalah as a science, where we want to discover the forces of nature that are acting upon us and acting upon the whole of reality, actually, so that we can kind of balance ourselves and attune ourselves to the flow of life. And instead of getting beaten around, or instead of not having an idea as to why we're living or what the purpose of life is, and just living like animals, actually, right? Like cats and dogs, they don't ask about the meaning of life. So instead of living like that and just passing away, we actually can use this science in order to have a higher level of existence, sensation, and live in that perception beyond our bodily senses, while actually living in this world. Okay? So everything that we're studying is attainable in this life, in this world. And Kabbalists are actually telling us that when a person passes away without any spiritual attainment, without the attainment of this higher perception, nothing really happens, okay? As religions would have you believe. Okay? So Kabbalists are very pragmatic guys. They like to believe what they see, and according to their discovery, they've written to us books and have invited us basically to discover the same things that they have discovered. And that's what we'll be studying. Now, throughout the course, we'll be touching on the history of Kabbalah. We'll be touching on what is our reality, how is our reality created, and how are we a part of that reality. We'll be looking into that. We'll be looking into a very, very special topic called the language of Kabbalah. Okay? How to understand this wisdom, how to understand the way they wrote the books, because they're talking about something that we can't see or perceive with our five senses. So basically their books are like trying to explain reality to a person who was born completely blind. How can I now explain to a person the colors of the rainbow, the beautiful, sunset, if a person was born completely blind and could not see anything from birth? It's just not possible. So their books sometimes for us, well, not sometimes, pretty much are like that as well. But there is a way to study and to start to understand what they're talking about. So we'll be talking about that as well. Also, another very, very important topic in the foundation of the wisdom of Kabbalah is a topic called the freedom of will. Free choice. Do we have any free choice? If so, where is it? Are we just allowed to wander here and make any decision that we like, according to how we feel like it? Or is there some kind of a guidance upon us that all of a sudden brings me a thought, and I think now I want to do this? Or inside of me all of a sudden a new desire pops up, and I now feel like, I want to do this. But where did that desire come from? Or where did the thought to do something come from all of a sudden? So all these things we'll be looking at, and they'll be very, very interesting. So if you like to study, really, really go inside your nature, this will be a really, really good sequence of lectures where you can get a grasp of everything. And then we'll take a look at the structure of the spiritual worlds. A structure that we can't perceive in our five senses, but we will, as we study Kabbalah, we will be able to delve inside of them, and we'll be able to actually learn everything that are in those worlds, just like we learn things that are in this world. Just like when we're born and as we're growing up, we discover that there are mountains and valleys and oceans and rivers and lakes, and there's all sorts of plants and animals and a lot of people all around the world, just like we discovered this world and the space around us, the universe. Kabbalists are also describing to us spiritual worlds, which we can actually go inside and discover as well, just like this world. So we'll be looking at the structure of those as well. Now, I have here with me on this table a book. It is called, let me just put it this way, Kabbalah for the Student. Okay, this is a big green book. As you can see, it's quite thick. It's like an encyclopedia. However, it's a very, very important book. This book pretty much has everything really that we need to attain spirituality. All right, so it's very, very recommended. If you do have this book, you can download actually, I think, a PDF version of it online if you feel like you want to download the PDF version, or if you feel like you want to buy the book, if you're a book reader, you can also order this online, I think.
Yeah, we did have a couple of questions about that. People are looking for where can they buy the books. They want to know what books that they should buy. We'll definitely get to that. Mulu right now is just talking about basically the first book that you'll ever buy, if you buy it, or if you want to download it. We also have that available online. We'll send the link where you can buy it, where you can look at them, where you can download them, where you can buy them. KabbalahBooks.info. It's basically our bookstore. We have it in many languages. I hear you were asking here for Romanian. I'm pretty sure we have this translated already to Romanian. It's usually the first book in any new language that we get. I think we have over 26 languages that we translate books into, and usually this book is one of the first ones because it's the most fundamental. So we're looking to expand into as many languages as possible. So go ahead and check online if you have that in Romanian, because you'll definitely need that throughout the course.
Yeah, but since you're also in an English lesson, I'm assuming your English is good enough.
Good enough to read.
So right, if you don't have it in your language, it's a really good idea to buy it also in English to check it out. All right. This is one book, and another book that we will definitely recommend is The Social Writings of Rabash. Okay, so it's called Rabash, The Social Writings. This is also a very, very important book. Rabash is an amazing Kabbalist, and he actually left for us the closest text possible to our generation. And his texts are very, very close to us, very dear to us, because he is the only Kabbalist in the whole chain of Kabbalists throughout thousands and thousands of years to have written in very open, plain words how a group of people can study and attain this wisdom very practically. So this book is an amazing book. We cherish it. We're studying Rabash every morning. We study Baal Islam every morning. So very important. If you want to get that, that'd be great. They're also, like I said, in our website. So you can download it if you like. But if you're a book person like I am, it's worthwhile having these two books because we will be going over them quite a lot. All right? And we'll also look at the soul. Okay, so a lot of people wonder, do we have a soul? What is a soul? What's our sixth sense? And so forth. And as you know, a lot of religions mention this thing called soul. Mind you, none of them seem to have any idea of what it is, but we will build that notion, that concept of what a soul is. And actually, the whole purpose of a person living in this world, his whole purpose is to build a soul while he's living here. All right? So this is actually a very, very different approach to many of the things that people learn in religions, because they tell us we already have a soul, and if we're good guys, we're going to heaven, and if we're kind of a bit off tune, we're going somewhere else. They're going to barbecue us. All right? However, Kabbalists say, no, not at all. A soul is a higher level of perception that we can actually live inside of. Just like we live in this body, it's nothing far-fetched, okay? Just like we're living in a body right now, imagine yourself living in another set of five senses in another way of existence. Okay, so it's nothing far-fetched, really. And that way of existence has a lifespan of endlessness. Okay, so it never dies off because it's integrated in this thing called infinity. So it's not far-fetched. And as we study, you'll see that Kabbalah is actually very, very solid. It's very hands-on, it's very practical, and it's very attainable by anyone who consistently studies like a stubborn kid that doesn't give up, okay, and gives himself to this study. So we'll be going through all of that. Now, until here, do we have any questions? If not, we can just move on a little bit, can't we? Chris, do we have any questions, mate?
You basically, he was just giving an opening of the things that we will be covering, so to kind of prepare you for the questions that maybe you will have in the future. I already see you're just throwing out a bunch of questions. That's great. We want as many questions as possible. Obviously, that could indicate that we may not answer all of them, which is why we want to answer as many general questions as we can to begin with. So we try to get everyone a little bit feeling like we're talking to them a little bit more personally. And so it's very important, please, to send as many questions as you can. And he basically just now talked about, we'll talk about the soul, we'll talk about how it is with religion, what's the connection with everything. So most of all the questions we see many times over and over again, so I already know that we'll cover a lot of the topics that you guys want to talk about. But in the meantime, please keep sending questions. If you have any questions about what books to get, again, still I see that's an issue. Visit those links that I sent and just kind of browse around in there. There was a question about Norwegian. I'm not sure. I know we have a friend in Norway who does a lot of translation, so I think maybe she might have done already Kabbalah for the student. I'm not sure. So you can check that again. I'm not an expert in Norwegian yet. So in the meantime, maybe just try to set us off in the direction that you want to take, and then we'll answer questions accordingly. But again, I will go ahead and answer the questions, the ones that are really standing out here that you've already started sending, and then once you find a good stopping point, we'll go ahead and tackle the ones that are on context, and then later on.
Not a problem at all. So, as we said, this wisdom dates back to 5,777 years, comes from a guy called Adam, and throughout the years, due to many misunderstandings and confusions, there has been many, many different stories around Kabbalah. So a lot of people have many different ideas about what Kabbalah is, but like we said, it's an essence. The essence of the wisdom lies around discovering the reality that we're in. And in fact, I'd like to touch on a definition that Baal HaSulam gives us. I'm going to read from this book. We might as well get used to it if we got it right. So on page 21 in the book Kabbalah for the Student, okay, there's an article called The Essence of the Wisdom of Kabbalah. And Baal HaSulam writes in that article a little paragraph that touches on this point. Actually, I'll read it from here. It's a bit more clear on my paper because I wrote it out for you before. This wisdom is no more and no less than a subsequent of roots which hang down by way of cause and consequence by fixed determined rules, interweaving into a single exalted goal described as the revelation of the Creator to his creatures in this world. Okay, so that might sound a little far-fetched, okay, but let's read it again and let's touch this point a little bit deeper. This wisdom is no more and no less than a sequence of roots which hang down by way of cause and consequence by fixed determined rules, interweaving into a single exalted goal described as the revelation of the Creator to his creatures in this world. Whoa. Okay, sometimes it is a little hard to swallow, but it's not too hard to understand at all. Baal HaSulam is being very, very pragmatic here. He's saying, listen guys, there is a reality, and we are living down here in this reality. You'll have to excuse my drawing, okay? And everything that kind of happens to us, he's saying, comes from a place called roots. Okay, This is very hard to get used to writing for me. There's a problem with it actually at the moment, so I'll try to be as best I can, okay? Everything that happens to us comes from a place where it's called causes, roots or causes, okay? And everything that we live in this world are called results, okay? Let's keep it basic. Results or consequences, okay? Everything that we live in life are consequences, and this is why we don't decide which country we're born in. We don't kind of decide our parents, do we? We don't decide our siblings. We don't decide where we were born, when we were born. I mean, nobody asked us. And if somebody did ask us, probably in another place before we were created here, and if we were given the opportunity to look down to see what was going on in this world, we'd probably say, well, hold your horses for a moment. I don't want to go down there. It's horrific. Okay? However, nobody asks us, right? So we just end up being born here and we're just living it out. So the Kabbalists are saying, well, if you live it out like you are right now, it's a bit of a dog's life. And they don't really say that in a positive way. Okay? They say that in a very mean way. Because what happens to dogs really, they just sniff around all day trying to find something pleasurable, and then as time goes by, life goes by, and they just die off. Okay? So the Kabbalists are saying, well, that's not really a nice way to live, because you just, like, no point. It's like you haven't done anything. You haven't attained anything. So Kabbalists are saying everything that happens in this world is a result which we can discover why things are happening if we connect correctly with the roots. Okay? So all we have to do is basically understand the roots of things. And then we'll be able to understand why things are happening to us, to all of us actually, to all of humanity, and how we can kind of balance ourselves with it. So Baal Islam in this definition is basically saying, listen, this wisdom is telling us how we can understand everything in life that happens to us in order to discover this one force called the Creator. Okay? So they're saying there's a creator. And the word creator actually comes from Adam, because Adam discovered that there was a force that created everything, and he called that force creator. So creator or God or Allah or Elohim or whatever you'd like to call is not some, Father Christmas kind of figure in the clouds. Okay? There is a force that creates everything, and that force he called the Creator. So we need to start relating correctly to reality. All right? So there's nobody up there in the clouds sitting down and looking all over us, like from above, like some, I don't know, Hollywood movies like to depict. Okay, that's not how it is. There is a force, there's a creation which we're all feeling, that we're living inside of, and everything that's kind of happening is the force of that Creator, which is kind of taking us from this life that we're in, through everything that happens to us, to a chain of events where we actually start to ask the question about the meaning of life, okay? And from there on we can begin to really climb up the ladders of attainment, okay? And that's the whole idea, to come to understand all the causes and all the consequences, and to kind of live the whole of reality as one whole, rather than being in this segregated place, kind of without really knowing what's going on, like a confused child. And this is basically what this definition is telling us. And the whole idea is that by discovering the root of everything, we actually discover this force called the Creator that kind of created everything in reality, including us. So the whole study should actually bring us to discover a relationship that we should have with our Creator. All right? So that's the whole idea, that while we're living in this world, we should connect and we should have this bond, this relationship with the force that's behind the whole of reality, called the Creator. So it's not about red strings, it's not about holy water, it's not about taking yoga poses with the Hebrew alphabet, as you might discover if you already do that. That's pretty tricky, actually, taking yoga poses with the Hebrew alphabet. And you will also discover that that's not really going to give you any connection with anything beyond your body. All right, so Kabbalah is not talking about our bodily senses, or it's not talking about red strings and holy water, and none of that are actually going to do anything to enhance your sensation of another level of perception or another dimension of reality, which you can attain with something called a soul that we need to develop. Okay, and that's the whole purpose of the study, and we need to develop that soul, that sixth sense, in order to feel and connect and create a relationship with the Creator while living here. That's in a kind of nutshell, all right? And everything they're talking about is actually all about that. So all the 20-odd volumes of Zohar, the 6 volumes of Talmud Eser Sefrot, which is the texts, the writings of Baal Salam about the tree of life, everything that they're talking about, everything that's in this green book here, Kabbalah for the student, everything they're all talking about is just about this relationship that a person in this world can build to have a relationship with the Creator, and through that relationship can actually develop himself to participate with the Creator in this creation, in the whole of creation, be a participant, which is actually just like how a child grows up in this world. When we're growing up, we don't really participate much in life. We're all absorbing things and growing up and trying to understand what's happening in this world and in our environment. But as we grow up, what happens is we get a profession, we have a family, we're a baker or a tailor or an accountant or a scientist or a computer engineer or whatever. We have a profession and we find ourselves actually participating in society. Okay? So as children, we kind of grow up and learn how to participate correctly in society. And this is very, very interesting, because everything that's kind of happening in this world is a sign for us and is a kind of a guide for us to show us how we should be developing in spirituality as well. Okay? Since this world is the world of consequences, everything that really happens here is a sign for us to see and grasp, to kind of adjust ourselves in developing our new level of existence. So how we can grow in spirituality, in the spiritual worlds, in order to participate in a spiritual reality and be basically the managers and the participants of that higher level of reality. And that's the whole idea of studying Kabbalah. Okay? And that's basically what Baal Islam is telling us in a nutshell. So up to here, do we have any questions about the wisdom of Kabbalah and its definition? Because that is important to get to settle in this lesson. Okay? Because I don't want you to have any funny ideas about anything else. When we're talking about the wisdom of Kabbalah, we are talking about building another sensation on top of our bodily senses in order to perceive a higher level of reality and the governor of the whole of reality called the Creator, and building that bridge of connection and relationship in order to attain everything and be a full participant, be a full manager basically in everything, just like the Creator. Alright, so no strings, no holy waters, I'm afraid, no lucky charms, and no weird yoga poses. Any
I
questions
wonder
on
if
that?
they've seen that video about the yoga pose.
I have not.
You should go. You should go. Just Google it and see what you. Then you'll know what he's talking about. Of course, we have questions about. Of course, we have questions about that. It's a very important key. It's like the keystone to continuing on studying. You have to really understand what exactly it is you're studying. Like Mulu said, there's a force operating us. Are you part of nature? Are you in this sphere? Are you on Earth? Are you in this inclusive system called what we call nature, how everything operates and operates on us? We're inside that. So it doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Hispanic. It doesn't matter what language you speak. You are part of the creation, and that means that you are destined and you must come to this level of participation with that upper force. And they say that the first level, the first spiritual degree, gives you more fulfillment than billions of times more over than anything in our world. Which means our world, meaning our perception of the world. So we have questions here about the roots and the branches. Mm-hmm. So we'll start with Kay from Holland. She says, "I understand that Kabbalah talks about nothing in our physical world. Is it intentionally done that way? Sometimes the answers are seemingly about our world, like Adam was a guy, blah, blah, blah."
It is, because the Kabbalists have to kind of describe it in a way like we describe things to children, right? We can't like talk to our kids who are like 3 or 4 years old and tell them, things about how adults live. What we need to do is take things down to a level in which they can kind of relate to them according to how they see the world, right? So the Kabbalists are kind of really bringing it down for us, and they're really doing the best they can. And Rabash has really done the real work by really bringing it to a level that we can kind of relate to. Otherwise, just like we can't relate to our children with deep topics, we can only relate to them according to what they understand. Here is a ball, catch the ball. Here's a red ball, let's catch and play ball. Okay, so they're like kind of bringing it really down for us, and that's why it's seemingly like a guy called Adam who was in this reality, but he was in this reality. But as you attain spirituality, you understand that this reality is a part of this whole reality, and it's not separated at all. Right now, in our senses, everything is corporeal. So the Kabbalists didn't have much choice except to relate to it as a corporeal story. So everything actually that was written in previous books, like all the 5 books of Moses, for example, they're not talking about this world at all, but seemingly they're describing with the stories that it has inside it about the spiritual world. So the 40 years that they were in the desert and everything that happened in Egypt and what Abraham was doing, what Noah was doing, what happened to Adam and this and that, all these stories are seemingly historical, but a Kabbalist doesn't really need to talk about history because he's not a historian. He's not an archaeologist either. He's a guy who's discovering spiritual worlds, and after hundreds of years of Abraham's death, after thousands of years of Adam's death, how can he even write about these things? Because he is perceiving the reality that they're all living inside when he attains spirituality. So for him, there is no history, there is no past, present or future. There's one reality which kind of includes everything, and then when he's looking at the reality, he's thinking like, oh, well, that's Abraham, and Abraham's actually a force. But was there a guy called Abraham living in the world? Yes. Because everything that's happening in our world is also an interaction of forces. So we will, as we discover spirituality, relate to everything that's corporeal, like seemingly corporeal, in that spiritual way. So they didn't have much choice but to depict to us in a corporeal way. So that's a really nice question. But we should always keep at the back of our mind that when they're talking about Jacob, for example, they're talking about the middle line. When they're talking about Abraham, they're talking about an attribute called mercy. Okay, so these are all kind of attributes which we will get into, deal with. Okay, now is there any other interesting question, or shall I move on?
Well, do you still have the diagram up of the roots and branches?
Yes, I do. If I can get it up here. Yeah, there we go.
Just a little bit more explanation about, like, it says that it's coming from the top, from
The
top
reason,
to bottom.
yeah, it's coming from top to bottom simply because well we make it from top to bottom simply because there's no other way to explain it. Top means something that's above me. All right, that's what above means basically. In spirituality, there is no space, time, or motion. So when we're talking about the Creator is above us or everything is coming from above, basically it means it's coming from a place right now I do not understand where it is, what it is, or how it's coming to me. But there is no place like above, below in spirituality. So this is why I gave the example of a thought all of a sudden kind of like appearing in you. Right? For example, you're sitting on the couch and you're wiggling your fingers and all of a sudden you get up and you open the fridge and check what's in the fridge to see if there's anything in there. All of a sudden that desire, that thought comes to you, and that's like so mindlessly coming to you. You're not even conscious of what's going on. It's like somebody is like bringing us a thought, a desire, and then we're like getting up, well, let me just check what's in the fridge, maybe there's something to eat in there. Do you know what I mean? So I guess you guys all relate to that.
There's a saying in Japanese, my mouth is bored. That's what they call that.
That's it. Okay, so there you go. So all of a sudden we get these desires and thoughts that are kind of, making us move in this reality. And because they're like popping up inside of us and we don't really have much control of it, okay, and this is why it's called things are coming from above. It's really beyond our control. All right. That's why it's called roots, and inside of me it appears as a consequence, so I start getting up and doing things or going places.
So that was Paradzi again from Zimbabwe. He's been with us from day one, meaning our first lesson that we gave. He was throwing out questions. This guy's on fire. So thank you for Paradzi for really it's helping us clarify the lesson. So each and every person that sends questions, it really helps us to, because we can't remember everything that we're trying to discuss and all the little points that are really important. We try to make it as clear as we can. So the questions really help. So Patricia from the U.S. is saying, can you give an example of when or how you would be perceiving a higher reality, a higher level of reality?
Well, that's like a development process, isn't it? Just like a child doesn't understand the whole of reality, well, the whole world, right, that we're living in overnight. It takes a process of many years. Even now, look at ourselves, right? I'm 45 now. I'm looking at the world and I'm thinking, God, there's so many things I still have to add to my attainment. It's crazy. Okay, why? Because it takes time. And just like for a child to grow and to start seeing things and to start, finding him or her place in reality as to what he wants to do in life, how he wants to do it, whether he can or not do it, and so on, it takes time. For us, it's going to take time too. Okay, but it's not going to take as long as a child's growth from, birth to 30, 40 years old. Okay? Obviously not that long. What we need to do, though, is to give it a good effort. And like a scientist as well. You know how scientists who delve in the topic that they're studying, they're like in it like for years until they come to this revelation, oh my God, I discovered something. Okay? So it's an accumulation of many, many impressions inside of us that now are being a foundation for a new level of discovery.
Oh, that's a good point. You talked about life cycles before, and you said, okay, well, a person can, maybe he's not interested in Kabbalah now, or maybe, he has to go through another life cycle before he comes to the point in the heart. So that's a good point. We also hear that we'll look at how planet Earth developed. You have the still billions of years developing, the vegetative few millions of years. Then the animals started developing, and then the humans started developing. But each vitality of life, we'll say, the development of the next vitality was much shorter than the previous one. So when you talk about humans, well, you mentioned that babies, all they know is their sandbox. All they know is they're a little baby, and they grow up a little bit more, and a little bit more, and eventually they see, oh, wow, there are taxes to pay, there's a different reality, It's the same thing here. We're starting to understand
Taxes
the place
are a bit
we
more
live.
down the line, I think.
All right, all right. Well, I don't know what country you have to start paying taxes. Maybe
You're an American, so they're ripping you off over there, probably.
every time. So, I'm sorry. Did you want to continue
Yes.
on a different?
Yeah.
We
If
can-
there are
we
no
can skip up
questions,
these
let's
later.
move on because we don't have much time left.
There was one thing. There was one thing, and I think it's important because Christian from Bucharest is saying, first of all, who are you? Not the name, not the CV. And I remember when I started taking these courses, you want to know about the instructors. You want to know like where they come from, how maybe we can identify with them a little bit more, so they'll understand where we came from, and they'll see that it's really open to everybody and it's really possible for everyone to advance.
So what exactly?
So she said, first of all, just tell us who you are. We didn't really explain who we are, maybe where we came from, a little background.
Fair enough.
Right.
My name is Mutlu. Okay, and I'll spell that because it's a bit tricky. Okay, let's do that. My name is Mutlu. Okay. And this, I don't know what's the matter with this pen.
I know, I tried to fix it too. I couldn't fix it, I'm sorry.
Let me just do my best. And I will write like a primary school kid, but there's no choice. This is my name, Mutlu. All right? And I've been studying with Bennet Burrow since 2003. And I've moved to Israel in 2006. And I've been living here for the past 10 years. And I've been teaching for the past 7, 8 years, actually, in English and Turkish. I'm actually Turkish. My roots are Turkish. And I started studying this wisdom when I was in Australia. I'm also Australian. I used to live in Australia. And I used to live in Sydney. And just like probably you, I had a really contentful life. It was all good. Sydney, Australia is a very, very nice place. In the world, I'd say Australia is one of the best places to live. And everything was nice. Everything is great. However, there's something missing. Well, why am I living? Okay. So through this question, just like me and just like Chris and just like all our other friends around the world have discovered this wisdom. So what we decided to do was, well, let's take this one step higher and let's get our hands a little dirty and let's study. So what we wanted to do was to discover the meaning behind our lives, and that's through that question we started studying. And we are students of Dr. Michael Lightman, and Dr. Michael Lightman is the student of Rabash, and Rabash is the student of Baal HaSulam, Yehuda Ashlag, and Yehuda Ashlag is the student of Joshua of Porslow, who was a Kabbalist. Only one human race, okay, which we basically is obligated to do two things. One is to create his soul, and two, to help others who want to do that too. And spirituality, the essence of spirituality, is to actually help others, basically, but help them to come to the purpose of life so they understand why they're living. So accordingly, we've received permission from our teacher as well in order to teach and help those people who also want to learn and attain through this wisdom a new perception of reality called spirituality. Spirituality defined as per Baal HaSulam that we just read. And the reason people study Kabbalah, the reason we all come to study Kabbalah, it's not because we're, more special than anybody else, but it's because we begin to understand, which I'm now basically moving on with the lesson now, after having answered your question, is to discover why we're not happy in life. So Kabbalists is saying to us that our nature, our human nature, is a desire to receive. That what we really want to do is to just fulfill ourselves. So let's say this is me, Mutlu, And by nature, all I want to do is fulfill myself and get pleasures. That's human nature. And the problem with that is this. Every time I get what I want, the pleasure and the desire, they cancel each other out. So the fulfillment and the desire kind of neutralize each other. Because the fulfillment is like a positive thing. My desire is like a negative thing because it's something that I'm missing. Okay? And what happens is they cancel each other out. So every time I run after something in life, if I get it, my happiness is only momentarily. There are many studies on that. In fact, if you buy a new car, I think it's like 3 months. After 3 months, you're like over it. Okay? If you get a new shirt, the first time it goes into the wash, it's already over.
They've really measured it. The family, house,
Everything.
car.
Everything.
They have the numbers. It's there.
So all our lives, we're trying to fulfill ourselves with these desires that are constantly popping up inside of us. We're chasing all these desires in order to fulfill ourselves, ending up with a greater and greater emptiness. This process has to happen in order for a person to stop and say, well, doesn't matter what I attain, I'm still going to end up being empty. So what's the point of running after anything in life? And that's how a very special thing called the point in the heart begins to open up inside of a person. And this opening doesn't depend on your religion or where you're born on the planet, where you are, who you are, it doesn't matter. It could be anyone. So this is why we got friends from Australia to Alaska, from Siberia to South America, from Africa to, I don't know, Timbuktu. All right? All over the world. And in fact, we've got friends from all kinds of religions, all kinds of backgrounds. We have friends from China, we have friends from the Middle East, we've got friends from Iran, we've got friends from Abu Dhabi, we've got friends from Singapore, South Korea, New Zealand, Turkey, all over Europe, North America, Canada, the US, all over South America. Why? They just have this question that's bugging them. Why can't we just be fulfilled in life? So through this question, just like me, okay, just like Chris, just like Jonathan in there in the tech room, okay, he's also Australian. We moved here together, so. And just like Chris, who moved here from Texas, and all our friends in America, in Canada, in South America, Europe, they all come to this wisdom through this question. We can't be fulfilled the way we're living in this life. It's not going to happen. And this is why we need to discover our nature and why it can't be happy with this nature. But we can also discover how it can be happy if it makes a few little tweaks. So all we have to do is make a few little adjustments on our approach to life to discover real happiness. This is all it's about. On top of that, what we have in this world is complete misunderstanding of why things happen. This is why we blame other people, we blame ourselves, we blame, I don't know, some people are religious, so they blame God for treating them badly. Sheerly because we don't know what's going on. So we need to understand what's going on. And we need to understand our nature and the generality of nature. And we need to kind of upgrade our perception and kind of come to this flow, this matching, okay? And discover accordingly how we can like integrate ourselves into a high level of perception and reality in perfection and be happy. The great majority of humanity right now doesn't really lack anything. In Europe, pretty much, we have things to eat. We've got a roof over our heads. But what we basically see in these developed countries is a lot of depression. Seemingly, we have things. We're not dying of starvation, all right? But we just feel like, what is it all for? So this is why we have high rates of suicide in countries like Australia, which is, like I said before, is an amazing country, okay? But there's a high level of suicide. There's a high level of drug abuse and alcohol abuse, simply because even though we have everything in life, we feel like we don't have anything. So we're running around constantly to fulfill ourselves, and it's just not working out. And this is what we need to understand. And this is what this wisdom is telling us. And Baal Salam here, there's another sentence which I picked out. This is from Kabbalah for the Student, Introduction to the Study of the 10 Sefirot. This is on page 315 of the same green book, Kabbalah for the Student. Baal Salam says, indeed, if we set our hearts to answer but one very famous question, I am certain that all these questions and doubts will vanish from the horizon, and you will look unto their place to find them gone. This indignant question is a question that the whole world asks, namely, what is the meaning of my life? And this wisdom is only evolved around answering that question and discovering the answer to that question. Okay, so unlike many people might kind of advertise Kabbalah as a tool for success in your business, in your relationships, in your I don't know what not. But if you're really studying the essence of the wisdom of Kabbalah, basically it is a tool, a wisdom, a science to help you discover the meaning of life. Throughout the study, even though we have not yet discovered spirituality, does it help me in my relationships and in my life, in the corporeal? Yes, it does. Of course it does. If I understand how the world works, isn't it a great benefit? Because if I begin to study Kabbalah, I understand how my nature works, and I understand how the world works, so all of a sudden I've got, hey presto, I know what to do and what not to do. So yes, it helps me in success with my relationships. It helps me with my approach to life. It helps me to distinguish between what's worthwhile and what's waste of time. So yeah, we get smarter when we study Kabbalah, that's for sure. Okay? And all those things along the way help us tremendously because it makes us save a lot of time. We don't run around after things that we feel we already know through the study. That's just waste of time.
It's like a child that you have, and sometimes you have children. You only need to tell them a couple of times, and they get it. They understand it's not good for them because it upsets the parents or whatever. Or I'm climbing on the thing and I fell and I bumped my head twice, and I realized after 2 times I'm already okay. Start studying Kabbalah. You start understanding the laws of nature, and start understanding nature's attitude towards you, and you start understanding what attitude you need to have to reciprocate towards nature in order to understand. Once you start understanding what it wants from you, you're not going to make mistakes anymore. Absolutely. So that's what we're studying. That's what we want to do. In the end, we want to run away from suffering. That's clear. We want to know more. You'll know more, but you're going to undergo a lot of changes, and it's going to be work. But you're happy to do it because you're done with this. You're done with this life, anyways. That's why you're here on the chat with us.
Not only that, it's just that it also helps you to, it does help you to arrange your corporeal life as well. I can definitely say that too, through experience. Okay, so although in Kabbalah we're studying a higher level of perception, but that study, until a person gets to that level, the study also kind of aligns a person and kind of straightens him out. It's like giving a child the right approach to life. Instead of him running around, going wild, he begins to understand that, he needs to do this and this and that, and he shouldn't start running around and screaming like he was when he was 3-4 years old, because now he's 7-8. He's got something else on his plate. And Kabbalah kind of sorts you out. It kind of washes you out and kind of brings you this new perspective to your corporeal living as well, in order to be balanced in your corporeality, in order to attain spirituality. So this is a kind of a stepping stone to kind of, really sort yourself out on the plane of this world, upcoming to a higher level of perception. And like I said, when we discover that we're running after all kinds of pleasures with no taste in our taste buds after we get it, it's really becoming pointless. Like having an ice cream. If you have an ice cream, if you love ice cream like I do, like the chocolate ice cream, let's say, you take a few licks, you take a few spoonfuls. Afterwards, your tongue's a little cold and the taste is no longer felt. But you finish the tub simply because you feel like finishing it, even though there is no taste of the ice cream left after 4 or 5 spoons. That's it. And such are the tastes in life. So Kabbalah actually makes us smarter, so we go for where there is actually pleasure. Real pleasure. Endless pleasure. Okay, so one more text that we're going to read, and then we have 8 minutes. We'll be finishing at 1:15. So let me just read one more thing from the Wisdom of Kabbalah and Philosophy. Understanding, this is also Baal Salam, understanding the meaning of the word spirituality has nothing to do with philosophy. This is because how can they discuss something that they have never seen or felt? What do their rudiments stand on? If there is any definition that can tell spiritual from corporeal, it belongs only to those who have attained a spiritual thing and felt it. And these are the genuine Kabbalists. Alright, so that's the kind of attainment that we're going to look at. Now, are there any questions in the last several minutes that we can really go through and, very fast, bang, 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 nail them?
Yes. Omid from Iran. He said this a while ago, and I think it's important because he probably represents a lot of the demographic here. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily from Iran, but just people who are studying alone. They don't know anyone else around them physically. Mm-hmm. So he says in Iran, people think bad about Kabbalah, which I can understand. Mm-hmm. And there's no Kabbalah groups. Given the importance of education in Kabbalah, how do I learn Kabbalah alone? Is that possible?
It is possible because, first of all, you're not alone. All right, we have a lot of friends who, like I said, they're in Alaska, they're in, Timbuktu somewhere, in Siberia, and they connect online. Yes, all religions hate Kabbalah. All of them, right? So, also the Jewish religious people hate Kabbalah, the Christian religious ones hate Kabbalah as well. So, this is fact, okay? No big deal. Nothing we can do about it, and we don't have to do anything about it. What we need to do is study. So now you're in Iran. We have to think of it like this. I live in Iran, and my conditions are that I have the internet. So I don't have a lot of people studying with me. I might not have anyone studying with me, but I have the internet. And this is what my destiny has given me. These are my conditions, right? If I want to do something in life, I check out what's available to me. So available to me is the internet, and on the internet we have all the lessons, we have all the sources, okay, for you to stay in touch and in connection. So you must use that, okay? The Creator, or life, will not give us a situation where we can be disconnected. If we came to Kabbalah, you can bet your life on it that you can stay connected from where you are. No way that the Creator is going to give you a chance to come to Kabbalah and not give you the opportunity to study. That's That won't happen. It's like giving our kids an impossible mission they can't do. It's like giving a 3-year-old a task to carry 20 kilograms of weights. He's not going to do it. So why give it to him? Same with life. Life will never give us anything we cannot overcome. So if you're there on your own, you got the internet, we'll have the Facebook group soon. Stay in touch, stay connected.
For many years, we've had students with us from countries all over the world, and the closest group to them or the closest person next to them is 100 kilometers, 300 kilometers, 1,000 kilometers. We have it all, and the good thing is, for someone in Iran, it could be something differently. You'll have to check your situation, but we have congresses, which are just gatherings of people from a general area, say Russia maybe, or from Europe that we just recently had. So everyone can buy a plane ticket and come to for a few days to study with people that also study Kabbalah.
Absolutely.
Very important, very important to the path to advancement as well. We'll talk about that later on. So let's talk about point in the hearts in general while we have a few minutes left, just because everyone here obviously has a point in the heart or some kind of inclination to understand what Kabbalah is. So we have a few questions. Jürgen from Germany says, does every human have a point in the heart?
Everybody has a point in the heart, but depends if it's awakening or not. If it hasn't awoken yet, okay, I can't really say he's in that degree. A human is called according to his inclination, according to the potential that he has. We're called human because of that potential. If it hadn't awoken in us, then what are we living for? We're just going to end up old and dead, right? So everybody has a point in the heart, just needs to awaken, and it's a process. So we can't pressure anyone.
That's the second question here. He wants to know, what do we do for people around us who... This is Gabby from Bucharest wants to know, what do we do?
You must not pressure anyone, because everybody is going through a process of development, and we need to respect that. Okay, so 16, 17 years ago, it wasn't awoken in me either. I was living like everybody else, okay, running after a career, trying to get a better life, trying to live a better life, doing things everybody else does to live a happy, better life, okay? So after a while, the dot in the heart awoke, okay, just like with everyone, okay? And then I decided to take a step back and say, well, wait a minute, what's going on?
But you decided.
Well,
not someone was like, hey, no, listen, I found the meaning of life, you gotta come.
Yeah, exactly. So don't tell people, don't pressure people, let people develop, okay? It's not right to pressure anyone.
It could damage them and it can damage you. You don't understand how the system works yet, and the fact that you're trying to pressure someone else to join you on this path, on this inner search, it could actually push them farther away. And maybe they would have discovered it in a couple of years, but now they have a bad taste in their mouth from it or something. You just need to be careful.
Exactly. Think of it like a religious missionary guy coming to you and trying to convince you onto their religion.
Right.
It's not nice.
It's a turn off. It's a turn off.
Exactly. So leave people alone. If this awoke in you, you come to this study with us, and see how you go. A person learns where they feel right in their heart. Okay? So if you guys feel that this is like the right place for you to study Kabbalah and to study the meaning of life and so on, so we can carry on studying, Different strokes for different folks.
We have so many questions and we didn't get to them, and
we can extend to 11:30 if there are.
I don't have a problem. Does anyone else have a problem? Are we cutting into someone else's time?
Does the tech team have a problem?
Tell us right now. Are we okay? 15 more minutes or what?
Yeah. Okay, we're okay. So we'll carry on until 11:30.
Great. Let's just knock out some questions. Yes, let's get some people. And I got a response from the moderator saying that there's an Elizabeth in here saying that we weren't answering her questions or something. Mm-hmm. Elizabeth, I looked. All I saw were just kind of this back and forth dialogue about technical problems you're having. If you have a question about what we're learning right now, please send it in and I'll make a note of it. But I just didn't see any questions that you've asked yet. So listen, Paradzi, he just asks good questions, and he covers like at least 3 other people that are asking. So he always asks in the name of other people as well. You can see. What is the soul, and how is it different than the spirit? Or what is the spirit? What is the soul? Just explain that.
Guys, let's keep things simple. Okay? We live in a sack of protein called this body. Just like any protein matter, it will pass away. And then there will be a place for it. And they will, if you're a nice guy, you'll get one of these, and they'll say rest in peace. Okay? That's where this is heading. And this is called life, as we know it. Okay? So the Kabbalists are saying, guys, however, this doesn't have to be this way. If you have a point in the heart, they're saying, listen, this point is very special. We don't feel it inside of us at the moment. It is only a point, it's a spark. It's like having one cell amongst the millions and billions of cells I have in my body. It's not felt, so it just comes to us as a little pinch of a question, and it says, hey, why are you living? Because he understands that this sack of protein doesn't really have a future. So he wants to bring us to a good state. Now this point in the heart has a special connection with the Creator. And this is his initial connection with me, or with you. Who asked the question?
Parazzi.
Parazzi. Let's call you Mr. P.
Or Parazzi, maybe. I'm not sure. Sorry about that.
Okay. So this is like a way of connecting with you, or with all of us individually. And you're asking the question, why am I living? This is how the Creator first gives you a little nudge. Say, hey, what's it all about? Okay? A little kind of elbow. You know, your friends sometimes say, hey, you know, I want to tell you something. So that's how the Creator comes to us and say, hey, I want to tell you something. There's something more to life. That's how this dot in the heart awakens. When it does, from that little dot, we're going to build, by studying together, all of us, a thing called a soul. Which will connect reciprocally with the Creator through all our desires. Sometimes this dot is called an intention. Sometimes it's called a soul. Sometimes it's called a sixth sense. I don't care what you call it, basically. It's a new sense, but we have to develop it. We have to grow it like our baby. Imagine you have a baby, you have to grow it up. This is exactly what a dot in the heart is. It's a little baby that needs nurturing. Okay? And this is what the wisdom of Kabbalah does for us. It gives us the tools to grow it. We don't feel it yet. If we had already felt it, we would already be in the spiritual worlds. Just like a baby in the mother's fetus. Okay, in the mother's womb, the fetus doesn't know what's on the outside. That's how this dot in the heart is right now. It's in this womb, and it's just beginning to grow. And we have to give it birth into a new realm. It's a good question. Yep, 10 minutes. Let's knock them out.
Let's do it. So, I'm going back to the beginning, when you guys were first starting to ask. So, Arturo from Spain. If the mind creates reality, and I just have a desire for things, if I have a desire for something, I think what he's trying to ask is, if I have a desire for something, can my mind make that reality?
If you have a desire for something, what your mind does is two things.
And listen, John from Omenia is also going to answer your question as well.
Okay. The mind does a calculation. I want something, how can I get it with minimum effort? That's what the mind does. It's a calculator, actually. And it's also a data bank. It's a memory bank, basically. This is why, as we grow up, our mind stores all the memories in there. And then as I grow up and I want something, the first thing it does, it goes in there. It says, okay, let's see, from all the experiences, how can I do this in order to fulfill this desire? How can I make this out? The mind is nothing but a calculator.
With the least effort. Least effort.
Yeah, of course. Minimum
Always.
effort, maximum pleasure. That's the formula. Okay? So any person who has a desire, the mind only works to realize. It's a slave to my heart. The head is only a slave to the desire. That's all. It just makes a calculation. And if I don't know how to get what I want, it will research, it will read books, it will check out YouTube videos on how to get what I want. Yeah, it's a smart guy is. What else?
So the difference between the brain and the mind, you have the brain so you can operate the mind. It's the same with any other animal. You have just consider your body as an animal. I'm hungry. I need an organ that's connected to my body that tells me how to fulfill that hunger. Without any spiritual life, without anything else, I'm talking about simply just surviving in this world. You need to have a brain in order to carry it on. Now, if you want to develop a sixth sense, that's something different. But they do say we only use, 10% of our brain?
No,
something like that?
Yeah.
Less than that? What about the other percent? What are we going to do with that? It's a question. Maybe it has to do with understanding our connection with the entire human species and using it in the correct way.
We'll discover all that as we go along.
So, other questions, very good ones we have here. Thank you so much for sending all these questions. It's Ben from Nigeria. For a long time, Kabbalah has an exclusive knowledge open to the Jews. Why suddenly are you asking people to acquire this exclusive wisdom?
It's not an exclusive wisdom at all, actually. First of all, Adam was not Jewish at all. Okay, when he was looking into the world, there was no religion at all. After Adam came Noah. I don't think he was Jewish either. Abraham, I don't think he was Jewish in Babylon. In fact, all of our wisdom in Kabbalah comes from a guy called Akiva, who was not Jewish, but he was the greatest Kabbalist during the time of the Second Temple. And King David, a very famous man and a Kabbalist, his mother wasn't Jewish either, but he was the king of Israel. It's not exclusive at all. In life, you'll find that there's nothing exclusive at all. Second of all, I'm teaching you guys here. And guess what I am? I'm a Turkish Muslim. And I'm teaching you guys Kabbalah. Anything else?
Sure. Next question. Do we have a mission, Jose Carlos from Spain? Do we have a mission in this world, and do we just need to discover our mission? Is that what we come here to discover our mission?
That's a nice question. We are basically created in order to discover our Creator and to connect with Him in such a way that we become a part of the whole of reality as a conscious, separate being. Okay, so there'll be the Creator and there's the created being who, with Him, will be participating in the whole of reality. Okay, so the purpose of life is actually to connect and to build that relationship with the Creator. Yeah.
Aysun from Turkey.
Oh, there we go.
Who is closer to the wisdom of Kabbalah, men or women?
Don't start separating us, okay? I think everybody in our generation is quite close. There are many women who study, but as you see, just like in the world population, there's always more women than men. And also in our study groups, there tends to be more women as well. So 60% are normally women and 40% are men. And the world kind of has that population balance as well. The female kind of species always tends to be a bit more than the male in population, and also it's like that in Kabbalah as well. But Kabbalah, I think, it's beyond sexes, because we're talking about spirituality here. So we're not really distinguishing people, and the soul has no, female or male sex. We'll actually discuss male and female in reality in the following courses. It's really interesting to take a look how the Creator created reality in such a way that there are men and women, but it's actually completely spiritual concepts that need to be connected to each other in order to form this reality. So it's a nice question, but there's room for it down the line, I think. But we need to look at spirituality beyond, I think, the sexes, and we need to understand that spirituality is a completely different way of living, and it's open to everyone regardless of sex, religion, race, color, whatever.
Muriel from Albania, you saying, okay, so you've taken this course before, and you want to know if it's worthwhile to do it again. Of course it's worthwhile to do it again. If you still feel like you haven't had any of your questions answered from the previous course that you've taken, or maybe you just want a little bit more experience before you delve in, this is talking to everyone. There's no problem taking this course again, and we'll talk about later on the steps that we'll take to become a lot closer and really advance. Right now, you guys are sending in plenty of questions, and for sure you will have these questions answered, but we're simply just running out of time. And this is the first lesson. We're trying to figure out how to start off with you and really trying to build a foundation for you to stack on top of that. First, it's clear knowledge. You need a little bit of knowledge. You need to understand what we're talking about, where everything came from, who was Bennet Burrow, what is Kabbalah, how is it opposed to religion, how can I fit it in my daily life? All these questions, they're the same questions over and over again from every course that we've taken, and it's great. We will answer them for sure. The problem is we only have 2 minutes, so I'm only going to take a few more questions here, and I will I have the questions written down here, and we'll try to get to them in the beginning of the class next time, a couple of the ones that are really important sticking out. That way you can really feel that we are trying to stay connected to you. We do want to answer your questions, but you have to understand from our end, we also need to provide you with the correct material, and sometimes the questions aren't exactly on topic, and we really want to fulfill the whole class with the things that they need to know. So please have patience with us here. So let's go ahead and say, let's go ahead and look at someone from Nigeria is asking. This is probably applicable to a lot of people there. Akanimo Samson from Nigeria. Is there any link between Kabbalah and African spiritual systems? Or to even answer a couple other people's questions, is there a link between Kabbalah and anything else?
Has no connection with any religion. It has no connection with any other methodology at all. There are 3,800 religions in the world. If you ask Google, it's 4,200. Kabbalah has nothing to do with any of them, because none of them will tell you to discover the Creator while living in this world. This is a method completely based on the perception of a higher level of reality, all inclusive, the full Monty, as we like to say.
Nemi from South Africa, lastly, and then we'll get to the announcements.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to have a balanced corporeal life?
That we will discover. That's a nice question, okay? But we'll see as we study, because life brings us a lot of confusions. What to run after for, what to do, what can I do? And an important aspect of this course, like I mentioned earlier, is free will. Where exactly is our free will? What can we choose? Can we choose anything, really? All right. So that is a question for that topic. And then once you start to delve into the matter and you begin to understand how your life is really working in this system, then you begin to take a step back and say, these are the things I need to do, and those are the things I can just, get rid of, basically. but it's a process. I think that's a really nice question.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to end on that. And I think it kind of touches everyone, and everyone wants to know how to arrange their daily life, how to make that a little bit easier.
Now, you have a Facebook announcement.
Yes.
I have one announcement before we close up with you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, guys, I've started this course with you. We will carry on, however, due to family obligations, and I'll come back with some good news for you afterwards, all right? I will be away for 5 weeks. So the course will carry on. We're not stopping, okay? There will be someone to teach with Chris, so be patient. All right, I'll be back in 5 weeks. I want to see everybody back after 5 weeks, and I'll come back with some good news for you
all 75 of you that were with us this evening.
Great. Okay, so just bear with us. We'll cover many of the topics in great detail. Okay, and the teacher that will come after me, I'm sure he'll be just as good, if not any better than me.
He's a friend from New York, I believe.
Absolutely great. So it's actually good for you as well to see different teachers, different instructors, to kind of get a feel of who really is studying Kabbalah and who's teaching them. And then you'll see that just like you, they started, and after a while, they started teaching and helping others as well. So it's a really good opportunity to just stick around with us.
Hey, you're going to Australia to visit family, and the friend from New York, I believe, is coming to Israel to study family.
He's going to visit family.
So
there you go.
It works out okay. Kent, yes, you were asking about free will. Like I said, we know all the questions, so we'll answer them. That's it, guys. So you already were talking here about this Facebook group. You saw the join our Facebook group huge button down there below the chat. Yes, it's important. We want you guys to stay connected with each other throughout your learning semesters that we'll have hopefully together. We'll experience a lot of things together and undergo together. And you'll keep hearing that phrase a lot. So this Facebook group is a way to really to facilitate what you want to have this interaction. You can see that you're dying to have this interaction. So just go ahead, click that link, and it's a closed group, so you have to be accepted. Clearly, if you're here with us, then you'll be accepted. So there's no worry about that. I saw there was a technical issue at first. It looks like it's been resolved. So go ahead and click that and get an invitation. Like I said, I'll save these notes, and we'll try and answer them in the beginning of the class next time. Like again, we had users from all over the world. I can't have time to read the list this time, but all over the world. Again, I don't even know how many users, and probably one user for each country. We'll say maybe we had 50, 60 different countries with us today. Again, that's amazing. It's a privilege here with you to do that. Besides that, I'm not sure that we have any other announcements. I hope you guys get the books. Make sure you get the book and go to the link and get the books, and we'll see you next time. Okay, great. Guys, have a great day, and I'll see you guys back in 5 weeks, but lessons are carrying on with a replacement instructor. Have a great week, and take care of yourselves, and all the best till next time. Bye now. Bye.